In this video, we learn to create a reusable charts in LWC. So there are different types of charting libraries available in the market. You can choose any of the charting library based on your need. You can choose HiChart, D3 charts, Google Charts or Charts.js. So here in this demo, we're gonna use the Chart.js. So let's go to the VS Code and start creating this component, and let's create a fresh component. Give this name as charts, and now our component is created. So now we are talking about a library, so it definitely we have to upload that library to the component, and to load that library we need to download the code and upload to the static resources. So let's go to the org, go to the setup, and in the setup we'll say static resources. I already downloaded the code of chart.js, so you can get that from the resources of this video. And now we'll create a new static resource and we'll give this name chart.js. Choose the file chart.js, give it public, and we save. So now our chart.js library is available in the org, and now we have to import that library to our component. And for that, what we'll do, we'll say chart.js from @Salesforce Apex. Instead of Apex, it should be resource URL and your folder name. So our folder name is chart.js. So we are importing the chart.js and keeping the name of the reference as chart.js. And to load a library, we need load script, and I'm gonna load it from package lightning platform resource source loader, and just make sure the spelling is correct. Lightning platform resource loader, and this load script will help us to load this chart.js into our component, and we already know how to load the library. So we're gonna use the render callback lifecycle hook, and I'll say load script. This should be the reference and the reference of the component, and then we have to give the path. So chart.js is in zip folder, so it will have another folder with the same name, and inside this we have a chart.js file. So we'll load that. Once it loads, it's a asynchronous call and it returns the promise. So we're gonna use the then, and here we're gonna print loaded successfully, and let's put the quotes. The chart.js loaded successfully, otherwise we'll catch the error and print the error. So now we are loading, but we also know the render callback called every time whenever any change happen in the component. So let's create a variable here is chart.js initialized, and we'll say whenever it comes to the render callback, it will check if this dot chart.js initialized is true, then go out of this render callback. Otherwise, come here and we'll say this dot is chart initialize equal to true. So the chart is initialized. So the next time whenever the render callback gets called, it will come here, it will return, and it will not execute this script. So this is our first step, and let's deploy this. But before deploying, let's change the meta tags. I'll say is exposed true lightning app page, and here we don't need anything, so let's keep as it is. Let's deploy this. Write the command sfdx4 source push. So the component is deployed. Let's go and go back to our app 0 to hero. In that I already created charts in LWC. I'll say edit page and search for our component charts. Hit save, go back. In the console it should print chart.js loaded successfully. If it's loaded successfully, so now our library is loading successfully. That's good. Now our next step is to create a chart, and for that we'll go to a library called chart.js. So in the Google you just type chart.js and the first option will come and you just select the chart.js, and in this we'll click the get started, and this it will tell us about the installation. We don't need to worry about the installation because we already set up the library in our component. So we'll go to the second thing, that is creating the chart, and for creating the chart we need canvas id and something, and here we are creating the things. So let's go to our JS and do the same thing. So in our HTML what we're going to do is we're going to create a div here where in between we're going to load our chart. I'll give the class name chart and I'll give some margin around this chart, around medium. And in LWC there is a very important point to note: whenever we add or append dynamically HTML to another div, so suppose I have to append some HTML in between these two tags, I should define my element as LWC DOM equal to manual. So this tag will tell to LWC something gonna come here in between these tags, otherwise it will throw an error. So this attribute is very much important for that. So now we tell there is a div with a class chart and this div is expecting some element to come in between these tags. So let's go to the JS file, and in the JS file what we're gonna do is once the library loads, just call this dot load charts. So we are creating the load chart of function. I'll say load chart, and now first thing we have to do is we have to create an element canvas. I'll give the name canvas to the element that we are going to create, and to create an element using JavaScript we're going to use document.create element and the element name. So we are creating canvas, so this will create something like this tag actually behind the scene. Okay, so this we are creating the tag. Then what we are doing is we are saying this dot template dot query selector, and we are fetching the div with the class chart, which means we are fetching this element div with the chart, and then we are saying append child. So we are appending the canvas to that element. So while running this line, what will happen, there will be a tag gets created dynamically like this, and then what we're going to do is we'll create a context to the canvas. We'll say context equal to canvas dot get context 2D, and after that what we want is we have to create the chart configuration, and for that what we can do is we'll say We'll go to the library and just copy the context they have. So here they already have the code. We'll just copy paste the whole code. So I copy the whole code. I'll come back to the app. I'm just telling you the approach that we should follow. And I'll say here, I'll create a config function. You can create an object as well. That's all right. So this function will return the whole object that we have copied. And I'll just remove this part and I'll return only the object. I'll remove this. So now it's returning the whole object. And what we're gonna do here is we'll say new window dot chart. So we are calling the chart chart function. This function will ask where you want to load this configuration. So we'll give this context. We'll say here in this context you load the configuration, and that configuration is this dot config that we are passing. So when we are calling this function, it will return this object, and we'll store this reference into a variable called this dot chart, and I'll create a variable on the top chart. Basically it's a property. So, and one very much important thing here is in chart.js there is a issue called, like, whenever the chart.js tries to load, it inject the CSS directly to the DOM. So we have to disable that. In other library you don't have to do that, but in this library you have to disable the CSS injection. For that, what we're gonna do is window dot chart dot platform dot disable CSS injection equal to true. So because the chart or the canvas is not yet created, and when the library loads, it's tried to run the CSS and try to inject that CSS into the DOM, but that time DOM is not ready, so it will fail or it will throw an error. So it's better as soon as you try to load, just run this line which says chart.js should disable the CSS injection. And now let's deploy this and see anything coming in our component or not. It should generate a chart of type bar. It should show the label red, blue, yellow, green. This is the configuration. It should show the label, number of chart, data should be there, and the background color, background border, everything you can set. So let's go to the org and refresh the page. And now if you looked at the code, it's loading the chart, but it's very light. We haven't given any background, but at least it's loading the chart and it's showing red, number of votes is 12, blue color, number of votes is 19, like that. All things are coming. And if we wrap this inside the card, it will load. So what we're gonna do is, now we are using with the static data. Now we want something to come dynamically from our opportunity record. Okay. So, and I want this chart to be reusable. So what I'm gonna do is I'll create another component and I'll call that component as chart wrapper. We'll say charts or chart demo. We can write chart demo. So this will be our wrapper component that gonna use this chart as a what we call a reusable component. Yeah. So what we're gonna do here is in this chart demo, first thing we're gonna create the layout, and I'll say multiple rows, and under this I'm gonna create layout item, and I want the size to be of 6, so we're gonna create two layouts, and I'll say padding around small, I'll close this item, and what I'm gonna do is I'll just copy this layout item twice, so there will be two cards on the screen. And then what we're gonna do is gonna create a card inside this layout, and I'm giving this card title as total opportunity. And just let's load the component that we have created. So I'll say C hyphen charts and just load this component inside this card, and let's keep the other card as well same way. So I will say total opportunity 1. For a time being, we'll keep the heading as it is, and let's change the configuration of this chart.js same as for the chart demo. And now we're gonna expose our chart demo component instead of chart.js, so we'll make it false. We'll remove this, and apart from that, what we want to do is we want to expose this component. And in the JS right now we don't need anything, we are just loading the HTML part, and we are just injecting the charts component here, and it will do everything automatically. And before pushing the code, we'll go to our app, we'll edit the page, and we'll remove this component from here, this page, because we don't want to use this component anymore. Hit save, and now let's come back to our VS Code. Let's deploy the new component that we have created. So basically what I'm trying to do is this chart component gonna be a reusable component, and we're gonna use this reusable component in different component, that is charts demo. So now it's deployed. Let's refresh the page, and now what we're gonna do is we'll place the charts demo that we have exposed the page, and let's hit save. Let's go back. Now you're able to see two charts, both having the static data right now, but it's looking good because we are using the layout, and layout is of size 6. So first card is taking 6 size, the second card is taking 6 size. Right now we have just created the card, successfully able to see the card. Now we want dynamic data basically. For that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna write a Apex code, and let's go and create a Apex class now. We'll say create Apex class, we'll say opportunity controller, and say, so we have created a class opportunity controller, and in this what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a method called get opportunity, and it will return the list of opportunity, and we'll write the basic query inside this. We'll say return select page name from opportunity, and our method is ready, and this is the get method, so it's always good to give cacheable equal to true. And now we're gonna use this inside our component, that is charts demo. I'll copy this and go here and import this method from @salesforce apex slash opportunity controller dot get opportunities. Now we have our method available inside the component, and now we're gonna use a wire service, and we need to import the wires from the LWC, then we have to pass our method name, and we're gonna use here as a wire as a property. So I'll give a name called opportunity handler to my function, and it will receive the data as well as error, and we'll say if data is there, console.log the data, and if error is there, console the error. So let's deploy and see whether we are getting the data or not. So this command will push our class as well as the component. So now it's deployed. Let's go to our org, refresh the page. Let's go to the console, and it's returning the 31 data, and many of the stage are repeated, so we have to ignore those stages that are repeating. We just want the unique stages, and for that what we can do is we can write a reduce method that can remove the duplicates. So I'll show you here itself. I did the right click on my array and it generated a temporary data or a variable in which I have the exact number of data. So if we have to remove something duplicate data, we have a trick here called temp1.reduce method, called the reduce, and we'll say JSON and value. And what we're gonna do is we'll say run the JSON as it is and add a new key, value dot stage name, and the value to this depends on JSON value dot stage name, and if it's available then 0, otherwise 1, and the initial value of my JSON is an object. So what I'm trying to do is I need a count, basically how many qualification stages are there, how many close ones are there, how many decision makers are there in this all records, right? And to do that what I'm doing is I'm writing a reduce that will count the number of each stage. Initially the JSON is an empty object, value is each object here. So first time it will come, it will say return everything, but create a new property here, value dot stage name. For first one is the qualification, so it will say qualification key is the key and the value is the stage within the this object, whether that qualification is available or not. If it's not available, initialize it with 1. Then it will come again, it will go to the negotiation, it will check if negotiation is already available in this object. It says no, then it will create a new property that is called negotiation review and increment the count to 1. Likewise, if it comes to a close one, it will create a close one property and add the number 1. Next time again close one will come, it will check, oh, is this property is already available, it just add one more, so then the count will become 2. Likewise, we'll get the count, and if I hit, you will see we have close one 18, ID decision maker 3, need analysis 1. We will get the count of this, and we need this count for our chart. So let's go and copy this code into our org. We'll say const result equal to data dot reduce method. We are just writing, and our result will get this. Now first chart that I want to create is the pie chart, so I'll go to the documentation and look for the pie here. Here is the donut and the pie, and if we see in which format they want the data is, you go down the data structure, they need a data property and the label property. Data should be only the numbers and proper label should be the keys. So we'll go back to our org. Now if I go back here and I want these names to be in the label and this in the value, what I can do is I'll just store this into another variable temp2, and I'll say object dot keys of this of temp2, and it will return me array of all the keys. Similarly, if I do object.values, it will return all the values in the same order. So this trick we're gonna use in our code now. We'll say if object dot keys of result dot length, it means we have more than one keys. Then go inside and create object dot keys of result, and similarly object dot values of result. Now we have to store the data in a variable, so we'll create two properties here. We'll say pie chart labels, and we'll create pie chart data, and we'll store this into the property pie chart. These are the labels and pie chart data is the value. So we'll say this dot pie chart equal to object dot values result. So now we have the data, and we have to pass the data to the child component, that is charts. And to pass that, what we can do is we'll go to our HTML of charts demo where we were calling this charts component. First, what we're gonna do is we'll change the heading to total opportunities because we are calling the all opportunity total opportunities. And then we'll say load the chart only if template if true, if we have pie charts labels available, it means some data is available. We'll say dot length spelling should be template, and here we're gonna put our chart, and we have to go because we are using dot length, so we have to initialize it with the empty array. And now in the HTML it's load the chart. Now we have to pass some data, and if we go to the chart.js, there are few things that we have to manage. One is the type, so we will pass the type from the parent. We'll say type equal to donut. Then apart from that, we need to pass the label charts heading, what the chart heading we want. So we'll go and we'll say chart heading equal to opportunities. I'll pass another property chart heading opportunities. Then we have to pass the chart data. So let's enter here, and I want to pass the chart data. Chart data is nothing that data that we are storing here, pie chart data. We are passing that pie chart data to the chart data prop attribute, and we have to pass the label as well. So we'll say chart labels equal to pie chart labels. New attribute here is chart labels, and we are passing the chart labels that we have stored. Now we'll copy this and go to the chart.js, and in the chart.js we have to catch these properties, and to catch something from the parent we have to import API from LWC module, and we have to define @API and just paste it here. What all the properties I'm passing type, then I'm passing chart data. This chart data is done, type is done, then I'm passing the chart heading, and then I'm passing the chart labels. We have created all the properties to catch the data that is coming from the parent. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna map these properties. So once the type is available, we'll say instead of hard-coded type, we'll say this dot type. Then apart from this, we want the label. So in the labels, what we're gonna do is we'll say this dot chart label, and I'll just make sure it's a labels or a label I have defined here. It's a label, so here it should be labels chart labels, and here also it should be chart labels. So this dot chart labels, and I can check here if there is no chart labels, then it should go as an empty array. So we can check if chart labels is there, then use chart labels, otherwise use empty array. Then we have data set, and in the data set we have to give the label. Label is nothing, it's the chart heading, so we'll say this dot chart heading. Then there's a data, so we can use the same technique for the data as well. So we'll say check if chart data is there, then load the chart data, otherwise an empty array. Then we need background colors. You can add some more colors to these numbers. So if you have more properties, so you can add the colors. If you want, you can reduce the colors, which whatever you want. So I add just two new color just to show you. You can play with the colors that you want. Border color you can remove. If you want, you can keep it. I'll just remove this. And in the option we can add few more things, like I want this chart to be responsive, so we'll make this property as true. I want the legends onto the right side, so I can add legend property, and I'll say position the right. And apart from this, we can remove the scales based on our need. We don't need this. I'll say animation, let it be true. And what kind of animation should allow? So we'll say animate scale, let's keep it true. And animate rotate, keep it true. So now we have set the configuration, and all the configuration is now dynamic. So from the outside we can check the type chart, heading, chart label, and the data is also dynamic now. So everything is dynamic, and from where we are calling it, we are passing the details. Same details, same thing I'll do it here as well. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. And just to show you the difference, I'll change the heading here to 0 to 0. That's the data in this format only, and labels let be in this. So only the heading I'm changing. So this will demonstrate you this is a reusable one. And let's deploy this. Now it's deployed. Let's go to the org and refresh the page. And now you see we are generating the donut, and it has the right hand side the legend. The color you can change based on your need. On the hover you can see it's giving us the tooltip. The heading here is total opportunity, and here total opportunity 2, and we are not getting any other heading here. So let's change the colors little bit. So I'll go to the .js file. I'll change few colors so that it looks a little bit nice. I have set of colors. Let's see will work or not. And apart from this, in donut chart we generally don't use the chart heading, but we are building the reusable one. That's why we are passing it. But while using the donut chart, it ignored this label. That's why we are not able to see any 0 to hero on the screen. And apart from that, let's create another chart that is of type bar. So what we can do here is, let's try if we change this donut to bar. Will it work or not? Let's first try this, and let's keep the data in the same way, and let's push the code and see if it throws an error or not. Now the component is deployed. Let's refresh the page. And now if you see, with the single name change, my both chart are different but the code is same. I just pass the type changed. For first I'm passing the donut, for the second I'm passing the bar. So it convert this donut chart to the bar, and as I said, in the donut chart we will not show the heading, but here now you see it showing 0 to hero. And on hover you can see here, if I click on qualification it removes the qualification. If I click on closed one, so these are the animation basically. And now you see, with a single code you can create as many card as you want, and this is your reusable chart.js library. So if you are going for another project, just copy paste this component, paste it there, and call the component in this way. We just convert the donut to bar, change the chart heading, and whenever you are thinking what kind of data format it should receive, you can go to the documentation, check the, like if I'm checking the line, just look at the format of the data. Based on that you have to tweak. So our component, the way we are passing the data right now is not in XY form. So if we pass the data in the XY form, our component will automatically render the line chart as well. So right now, if you look into the JS, we are generating keys value format, but our, you don't need to touch anything in the chart JS. Just you need to send the correct form of data for the correct form of chart. So our chart is looking really good now, and this is how we create a reusable charts. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.